Search for an ISO 42001 implementation timeline, and you'll get a lot of confident numbers. 4 weeks, 90 days, 6 months. Some of them are true, almost none of them mean what you think they mean. So, same disclosure as last time. My firm is at the start of this process, not the end of it. So, this isn't a war story, it's the roadmap we're actually executing, checked against how the certification process publicly works. By the end, you'll have a phased plan for free, and you'll know the one thing that decides your date, which is not the thing that most plans optimize for. Okay, I'm going to start with the mistake because everything else follows it. Almost every implementation plan is built as a documentation project. You write the policy, you write the assessments, build the statement of applicability, book the audit. It's a tidy plan, it's easy to resource, and it's wrong in a way that only surfaces at the very end, which is the worst possible place to find out. The external audit comes in 2 stages. Stage 1 reads your documents and reviews how the system is designed. If your plan is a documentation project, stage 1 is the whole exam, and you'd pass. But stage 2 asks a different question. Is this thing actually running? And it wants evidence, records with dates on them, assessments that were done on real requests, decisions that someone made, and reviews that somebody held. You can't write those, they accrue. So you can't cram for it's a sleep study. Whatever you do the night before, the test is in the elapsed time. The machine is measuring the hours you either have or don't have. So what about the 4-week certification stories? They're real. They're just the last chapter. In those cases, the management system was already built and operating. The 4 weeks covered formalizing it and sitting through the audit. Reading that as certification takes a month is like reading the last chapter and concluding that the book was short. So plan for 9 to 12 months from a standing start. Here's where that time actually goes. All right, phase 0, decide and scope. So phase 0 is 4 weeks, and it's the one people skip because it doesn't feel like progress. It's the phase that decides how much of everything else you build. First decision, and I covered this in the explainer, so I'll be quick. Certification or alignment. Certification means auditors, a registrar, and the whole evidence scaffolding. Alignment means using the standard as a blueprint and skipping the badge. Both are legitimate, but that single decision sets your costs and your calendar, so make it deliberately and write it down. Because if it stays unmade, it gets made by accident, 6 months in, by whoever is loudest that week. Then scope. Which parts of the organization, which AI systems, which locations? A narrow, defensible scope certifies faster than a sprawling one. And scope creep here is the quietest way to add a quarter to your timeline. Then a named accountable executive, not a committee, a person who has the authority to make the review meetings actually happen. The management reviews are a hard requirement later, and a committee cannot attend a meeting. Then the inventory. Every AI system in use, bought, built, and embedded in products you already own. That last category is where the surprises live. The AI features your vendor shipped in tools you bought 3 years ago for other reasons. And then budget, including the registrar quotes. Get those in phase 0, not phase 4. Lead times are part of your calendar, whether or not you plan for them. All right, phase 1, build the spine. Phase 1 is the drafting phase. Clauses 4 through 10 made real. The AI policy signed by a human with authority, roles and responsibilities written down, your risk assessment methodology, your impact assessment methodology. Both assessments run against the real inventory, the statement of applicability, and the risk treatment plan with its owners and dates. This is the part that most people think is the project. It's really roughly a quarter of it. So 2 notes from actually working through this. The impact assessment methodology will take you the longest, and it's the one most organizations have nothing for. Risk to the organization, most governance programs have some version of that. Effects on the people your AI touches, assessed on purpose with a method, that's a new muscle for almost everybody. Okay, so that's the part of our plan with the most road ahead of it, and I'd rather say that plainly than pretend otherwise. The other note, the statement of applicability is the document the entire audit orbits. It's where you say which Annex A controls apply and justify every inclusion and every exclusion. Write it carelessly and you've handed the auditor a list of promises to go test. And the exit criteria matter more than the document count. These documents have to describe what you actually intend to do, not an aspirational system nobody will run, because phase 2 is where somebody finds out. Phase 2 is the missing phase. It's on almost no roadmap you'll find online, and it's the phase that sets your date. So look at the checklist here and notice what's different. Nothing in this phase is a document. Every item is a record produced by the system operating. Assessments run on live requests as they come in, dated, and filed. The controls in your SOA actually operating. That means if the SOA claims a control, something is happening that a stranger could observe. Incidents and near misses logged, including the ones with unsatisfying endings. At least one real management review minuted with decisions in it. Think about a restaurant health inspection. You can deep clean the kitchen the morning of, and the kitchen will still be spotless, and you will still fail because the inspector asks for the temperature logs, 6 months of them. The cleaning was never the test. The logs are the test, and there's no way to produce them on the morning of. That's stage 2. Your documents are the clean kitchen. Your records are the logs. The other thing that happens in phase 2 is that the process you carefully design in phase 1 turns out to be wrong in small ways. The assessment takes too long. The escalation path routes to someone who's left. Nobody knows who approves the edge cases. Fix it. That's not failure, and it's not a detour. The standard has an entire clause about improvement, and a system that changed because reality pushed back is exactly what a mature one looks like. So if I'm honest, this is the phase that I'd most want to skip. It's slow, it produces nothing you can show a partner, and there's no artifact at the end of it, just a longer history. It's also the only phase that can't be bought or hurried, which is probably why it's missing from every plan trying to sell you something. All right, phase 3. Before an external auditor tests you, you test yourself. This isn't optional. The standard expects an internal audit of the management system, and you need one before your certification body stage 1. 3 things that matter here. It has to be independent of the work. They can be internal, but nobody audits their own system. If nobody at your organization qualifies, this is the honest place to spend money on outside help. Expect findings and record them. An internal audit that finds nothing is a red flag to an external auditor, not a green one. It's a smoke detector that has never once gone off. Either nothing has ever burned or the battery's dead, and the auditor is going to know which one it is. And then the work corrective action, with owners and dates and evidence they closed. That closure log isn't administrative overhead. It is the evidence that your improvement clause functions. You're not just fixing the findings, you're demonstrating that finding and fixing is a thing your organization does. Phase 3 is also where you select and engage your certification body. Use an accredited registrar and confirm their ISO 42001 accreditation status directly, rather than taking a sales page's word for it. Book early. Those lead times are real and they're not yours to control. All right, phase 4 is the audit itself. Stage 1 is the documentation and design review, typically a day or 2, and you should expect a gap list out of it. That's what stage 1 is for. It's not a failure, it's the rehearsal. And treating it as a verdict is a good way to panic over working as intended. Budget real weeks between the stages to close what it surfaces, not days. Then stage 2, the operational audit, several days, longer if your scope is broad. Auditors sample your evidence and interview the people who own the controls. Everything phase 2 accrued is what gets tested here. Now close any nonconformities on your registrar's clock and the certificate is issued, typically valid for 3 years. And then the part worth being clear-eyed about. You didn't finish anything. You brought a 3-year obligation, surveillance audits annually, internal audits annually, management review annually, recertification at about the 3-year mark, plus reassessment whenever the AI changes, new systems, new vendors, new autonomy levels. Your inventory is a living document or else it's a lie. All right, so realistic timelines. Here's the honest numbers on screen. From a standing start with no real AI governance, several systems in scope, 9 to 14 months. With some governance already running, where policies and assessments exist but the records are thin, it's 6 to 9. And if you've got a mature ISO 27001 system, a narrow scope, and dedicated people, 3 to 5 months is genuinely achievable because you already have the management system muscle and you're extending it to a new domain rather than building it from nothing. What moves those numbers is the scope breadth, whether you have any impact assessment practice today, how available your executive actually is for the reviews, registrar lead time, and whether you have someone independent who can run the internal audit. What doesn't move them, and this is the whole point, is writing documents faster. That's the lever everybody reaches for, and it's attached to nothing. So, phase 0, decide and scope. Phase 1, build the spine. Phase 2, run it. The phase that sets your date. Phase 3, prove it to yourself before someone else does. Phase 4, the audit. And then a 3-year obligation you should walk into on purpose. The checklist is linked below. It's free, there's no email, no gates on it. Take it, cut what doesn't apply, and put dates and names against what's left. And the standing promise from the last one. We're early in this. I'll report back from further down the road, including the parts of today's plan that turned out to be wrong, because some of them will be. That's a report I can only make honestly, because I told you where I'm standing. Now, you can't write your way into a management system. You have to actually run one.